about the rights of the terminally ill. So let's hear now from Richard Di Natale.
I just want to announce that during the sitting fortnight ahead of us, I'll be introducing a bill into the federal parliament that will effectively overturn the Andrews bill. The Andrews bill was essentially put in place to stop the territories from introducing their own euthanasia laws. I think the issue of euthanasia in this country has moved on from where it was 15 years ago. I think there's a significant degree of public support to change the laws around dying with dignity. We've got movements in each state of the country. We've got very strong public support. In a recent poll, over 70% of the Australian community wanted dying with dignity legislation passed, and only 12% of the community opposed it. I've been a medical professional in very difficult situations where you're dealing with people at the end of their lives, and I think most medical professionals have been in a position where they've given medication for pain and suffering that may actually hasten a person's death. It's a decision that is usually welcomed by families, and most people want to have the option to be able to end their suffering earlier than we can legally as medical professionals. It is a difficult decision, a decision I've come to through my own personal and professional experience in this area. So I think it's really critical that we introduce legislation into the federal parliament that says to all of the territories, you're now able to once again introduce euthanasia laws. Important to remember that we had for almost a year the Northern Territory during the 90s who had the opportunity people had the opportunity to avail themselves of euthanasia laws, dying with dignity laws, and several people did that, but many, many more took huge comfort simply knowing that they had that option should they ever face that really difficult decision. So it's something that I know people are concerned about. There are laws right around the world now in places like Belgium and the Netherlands, in states within the US, for example, where these laws exist. Many of the concerns that people have around them haven't come to pass. And in fact, most people don't choose the option, but at least know that, or take comfort in the fact that this is an option that might be available to them should they need it. So I think it's important to advance the debate. I want to put it back on the national agenda. I want dying with dignity to be back on the national agenda, and I'm going to do that by introducing a bill that would allow the territories to enact dying with dignity legislation.
How is this different to the territories legislation that passed the Parliament last year?
The territories legislation effectively said that the executive no longer had the power to introduce laws for the territories, that it needed to be a decision of the Parliament. What this bill does is it overturns the Andrews bill, which very specifically says the territories can't legislate for people to die with dignity. They don't have that capacity. The new territories legislation doesn't reverse that decision. This specific legislation that I'm putting forward will do that. It will reverse what Kevin Andrews did, which was to essentially say that the territories no longer have that right, despite the fact that it was in existence. We had these laws in place for almost a year in the Northern Territory. I'll also say it's really important that both sides of politics give their MPs a conscience vote on this issue. John Howard gave his MPs a conscience vote during the Andrews legislation. Gillard is on the record, the Prime Minister is on the record as having said that she believes that there should be a conscience vote on this issue. There needs to be a conscience vote. This is one of those issues where both the old parties are seriously out of touch with mainstream public opinion, as they are on many social issues. So I'm really keen to see both the Prime Minister and the opposition leader give their MPs a conscience vote on this.
What are the chances of this bill getting up? You've got those in the Labor right who are strongly opposed to this, and certainly those in the coalition as well.
Well, it was very close in the Senate last time, and I think one thing that politicians do is respond to public opinion, and public opinion on this is very, very clear. Over 70% support, 10, 12% opposition. That's the sort of level of support that this legislation has, with a few people undecided. I'm confident that there are very big campaigns building in states right across the country, and with some pressure on MPs, we'll see a very, very close result. And I think it's really important that we in the National Parliament don't hide from these issues. We've got to take them on. The Australian community expect us to do it, and that's why I want this issue to now be debated in the federal parliament, so that once again dying with dignity is on the national agenda.
Have you or Christine Milne raised this with the government, and if so, have they indicated a willingness to offer a conscience vote?
The first thing I did was consult with my colleagues in the territories, Shane Rattenbury in the ACT, who indicated that he was willing to have this discussion with the Chief Minister and would welcome a debate within the community about this legislation. The first thing to do is to flag that this is now on the national agenda. I think the next step is to discuss with both the leadership of the old parties as well as a number of backbenchers to try and garner that support. We won't be having a vote on this during this sitting fortnight, but we'll spend the next few months working very, very hard to try and garner support for this really important legislation.
Can the territories be trusted to regulate this? This is pretty complex stuff.
Oh, well, the Northern Territory already had dying with dignity legislation legislated, and we had several people who actually took up the option to use the laws that were available to them. We had many, many more people who just felt a great degree of comfort knowing that that was an option that was open to them should they decide to or be faced with that decision down the track. It's very clear there's legislation right across the world in different countries, good models for how this can work, and there's no reason that the territories can't do what they've already done, which is introduce these laws and give people a great sense of comfort.